Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest, Jim Roddy with RESPA. How are you doing today?
I'm tremendous, Roderick. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Please share with us, what does RESPA stand for?
Yeah, so it stands for RSPA, the Retail Solutions Providers Association. So I'm the president and CEO of the organization. We are North America's premier community for technology solution providers serving retail, restaurant, grocery, and all the subverticals underneath.
Awesome. So glad to have you on the show today. And Jim, we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So tell the people about your journey.
Sure. So my journey from where I started, I'd say my professional career to the RSPA. I like going back to college, and some people might think like, oh my gosh, he's going to give the long version of his story. Like, I don't need that. But it really starts there because I was a walk-on athlete for a scholarship basketball team at a small college powerhouse, Gannon University, Division II school in Erie, Pennsylvania. And the lessons that I learned there as a non-scholarship player, being a walk-on, scrambling to make the team all 4 years, even though I didn't get a lot of playing time, even though the coaches didn't pay a lot of attention to me, the lessons that I learned there very much as a servant leader really propelled me to my entire career. So shortly after college, first I was working for a minor league basketball team there, but that entire organization, the entire league folded. But I learned there about a monthly sports magazine. So I started my own sports magazine and did that for 5.5 years. And then serendipitously, there was a technology publishing company that was in my same building. And when I got kind of burnt out, being self-employed, I joined them and worked for them for almost 18 years. The last 11, I was company president of the organization. And then for about 3 years after that, I went out and worked for a vendor coaching their entrepreneur clients, their technology resellers, their software providers that they worked with. And so I did a lot of coaching in that regard. And then once that ended, I tried going out on my own for a little bit. I thought about doing that. But then the RSPA was going to be a client I was going to engage with. I'd volunteered with the organization for about 10 years prior to that. And then they brought me on board as VP of marketing. And then the CEO retired about 3 years ago. And that's where I am today. So some folks might be thinking, hey, wait a second, he went from entrepreneur and now he's not an entrepreneur anymore. But we work, a lot of our members are entrepreneurs themselves, right? We do have the big names like the Googles and the Intels and the NCRs of the world. But the vast majority of our membership are small to medium-sized business owners. A lot of them started it, or a lot of them are second and third generation entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Now, before we jump into RESPA and talking all about those good things, I want to step back a little bit and I want to figure out, Jim, what was your specialty on that basketball team? Were you a rebounder? You were a shooter, defender? What was your specialty?
None of those, because those would have actually involved playing time. But seriously, so my specialty was I knew my role. And my role was a few things. One was to bring energy every single practice, right? Because it's a long year and some guys will be like, I'm going to pace myself. Well, practices were my games. And so every sprint, every drill, I was given 100%. I still remember one practice, I picked the pocket of our starting point guard a couple times during a scrimmage. He was far, far better than me. He's giving me a look like, settle down, Jimmy. And I was like, nope, not going to do it. And the coaches were thrilled that I would bring that. I sat on the end of the bench. Every single year, every single game, because I didn't want any scholarship player being able to say, I'm sitting dead last on the bench. So those were a couple of the roles that I fulfilled. And also, I was a pretty good student, so I think I helped the grade point average maybe like 0.15 every semester, and that helped the coach keep his job.
That's awesome because a lot of people haven't been involved in teams and they don't understand that it's about the whole and those types of things, especially in practice, because you're getting those people prepped for what's about to happen. If they have easy practices, then they may not perform as well in the games. So I'm sure you are a vital part of that. Now, as we get ready to talk about RESPA and some of those things that you've done, a question that I always ask is there's events that happen or something that happened that made you say, hey, look, I'm going to go from the entrepreneurial world to go into this. What event happened that made you say, you know what, I'm going to burn my ship and go all in on RESPA? What happened there, Jim?
Sure. So, like, I can tell you, I have an exact moment that
Okay.
happened. So, like I
Okay.
said, the other organization that I work for, a large organization, they ended up laying off hundreds of people, and me as a coach for some of their clients was caught up in that layoff. And so I decided I can go out on my own and be a coach. And I was starting to get some clients, and then I
Mm-hmm.
had a big client, and I remember having the conversation with my wife, and it was, if I sign this agreement, it's a lot of money and it's got a year attached to it. Like, this is us as a family going down the self-employment path. Now, the first time I was self-employed, I was single. I was age 23 to 28 that I did that. But this is, we had a house, had a daughter, and my daughter was not, she was about halfway through her scholastic career.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we sat down and said, if I sign this, we're taking that path. And then it was like, yeah, too rich for our blood is really what it came down to. And we're like, okay, we're going to move to the safety of a tried and true organization rather than scrambling to keep people and doing that. So that's why I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs. They're gambling every day, right? They're putting it out there every single day, not just to make a commission, but they're putting their livelihood on the line. They're putting their grocery money on the line every single day. So that's why I moved into a role where I could have something that was more secure for my mindset and my family's situation, and I could help other entrepreneurs be successful.
Awesome, awesome. Definitely appreciate you sharing that. Now, tell us all about your current organization. Tell us what it is that you're doing, who you're helping, who would be an ideal person to get you in contact with. You know, that ideal client. Tell us all about it so we can learn a little bit more.
Sure. And talking about the RSP also ties in from a stability standpoint. The organization has been around for 76 years. Started off as the Independent Registered Dealers Association. So all the guys, and it was only men essentially back then, who sold cash registers, and a lot of them were NCR cash registers. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
that's not where the technology is today. And so that's what the organization does. It helps bring together entrepreneurs, small businesses who don't have a ton of resources, who most of them don't have like a board of advisors to lean on. Most of them don't have many people locally that they could join a group and they could say, oh, I know where you're coming from. So we build that community for them so we can accelerate their success. We always say through knowledge and connections. The knowledge is some that we provide. We have a couple events. We have a trade show every year called Retail Now that draws around 1,600 technology solution professionals. We also have a leadership conference that just wrapped up. We just got back from Curacao for that. That's a smaller thing. But that provides the forum that we either share things from the stage or they collaborate with each other in terms of whether it's workshops or networking or things of that nature. They can say, oh, you've walked a mile in my shoes, where they really can't get that anywhere else. So, and then a lot of what we do as an organization, it's for folks who are providing any technology solutions. And again, retail, restaurant, and grocery. So anybody who fits into that, whether you're a hardware manufacturer, a software provider, a distributor, a payment processor, or you're that local regional solution provider that bundles it all together and serves the merchant directly. That is our organization. We bring them together, and we also do warm introductions year round. Instead of saying, here's a member directory, good luck, go
Mm-hmm.
get them, Tiger. We will find out who are the right people for them to meet with. And we know our membership well enough that we will go and make that warm one-on-one introduction. So it's interesting because it's a larger organization, right? 730 companies, but it does not feel like a large organization. We try to make it as personal as possible because that's what SMB owners want. They do not want an 800 number. They do not want a one-size-fits-all solution. We try to make it as personal as possible, but it's operating at a very, very high level with some of the highest tech companies in those vertical markets.
Excellent, excellent. I definitely appreciate you sharing that. And as we continue to build the framework of what it is that you're doing and who you're helping, do you have a success story of a business that didn't necessarily know what was going on, joined the organization, and now they are thriving? Can you share one of those stories so we can have a clearer picture of what it looks like for an engagement with you?
Sure, we have lots of them. The one that I will tell you about is somebody that I met first at the Restaurants Canada show. I'm going to think with this had been 2022. I stopped by his booth, tried to learn about his organization. His name is Dennis Wilson from DBC Technologies. He's out in Vancouver, Canada. And so he might not like me telling the story initially, but he was like, I have no interest whatsoever. I've got this challenge, I got this challenge, I got this challenge. I was like, okay. And we always say, we're happy to move forward when it works best for you. Well, the next year at the Restaurants Canada show, my colleague went out and talked with him instead, and he was like, "You know what? I'm open to learning about it." He specializes in AI, artificial intelligence, and he does a lot in that realm. And you can imagine anybody who's in AI, they're not set in one thing. They kind of have to go where the technology takes them. He went to our Retail Now trade show in 2023. It would have been the first one, and he was just blown away by this was like the perfect community for him. It's like the one he'd been looking for his whole life. And now, if you look him up on LinkedIn, he is always singing the praises about the connections that he's made, the partnerships that he's made, the new products he's been able to take to market, and he's been able to help other people out. But again, it goes back to that initial. We didn't fit within the typical mindset, and I guess this is one thing for entrepreneurs. You get really laser focused, almost tunnel vision on what you're going to do. You've got to pick your head up and look in the periscope every once in a while and go, maybe there is a way to do this better. He is actually now, our community has kind of rebranded him as AI Dennis
Mm-hmm.
because he is the go-to guy in our industry for AI because he's gotten so involved and so engaged. So that's an RSPA success story. But again, it's also to my messages for the entrepreneurs out there. Look for an association or a community that you can go and learn more from other people. You do not have to go about it alone. You do not have to scale the mountain by yourself. Or if you scale the mountain, you don't know, maybe somebody around the corner has built a bunch of stairs already and you just take the stairs, or maybe even better, they have an elevator that you can
Mm-hmm.
go do that. So make sure you take time to explore your community. So again, AI Dennis Wilson of DBC Technologies, he is my RSPA success story to share with you.
Awesome, awesome. I definitely appreciate that because what we're trying to do is paint a clear picture of who's a good referral for you. You know, one of the other things inside of the networking aspect of things are referral partners. So, yes, it seems like AI Dennis is a great ideal client for you. But another aspect of it is referral partners. Jim, who would you say is a great referral partner for you that sends you over opportunities to get introduced to these business owners?
Sure. And I would say that is our number one resource for recruiting new members, are current members who know of somebody else and bring them into the community. So, really, where we get some of our referral partners from are sometimes folks who are playing in other vertical markets, right? They might be in the technology space, but they're serving legal or healthcare or things of that nature. So, if anybody knows of anybody in the technology space, but they want to learn from the best of the best, the leading folks in retail, restaurant, and grocery, we are a great community for that. And that's the other thing. We're super, super nichey. So, if somebody is not playing in retail, restaurant, and grocery, even though they might be the greatest technology whiz in the world, that's just not what we do. And so that's a lot of times where we have from the adjacent technologies, the adjacent vertical markets, that's where we get folks who come into play. I can think of one of our members, he was in the networking space for many, many years and then just kind of stumbled into point of sale. And then he said, this is a great space for me because he bumped into somebody who had experienced the RSPA community.
Awesome, awesome. And we appreciate you painting that picture because, again, the focus of today is to let people know what it is that you do. Now, one thing that we want to ask you to share, Jim, we understand that over your careers that you have had, the businesses that you have had, that you have acquired and nurtured some skills that have helped you in your business. Now, can you please share with us some of those skills that have helped you to be successful that maybe some of the entrepreneurs that are watching the show can add toward to their bag to help them to become successful?
Sure, happy to do that. So I'd say one skill that has really paid off for me over time, but it took a long, long time to build it, is I would put under the general category of team building. And so to me, that all starts off with the recruiting, the pre-employment process. And so I used to think I took that seriously, right? You spend some time with people, you ask them a whole bunch of questions, you think you're done, right? You're doing a good enough job. But one thing I realized when I was 32 years old, I was operations manager for the publishing company. I got diagnosed with colon cancer. And so that took me out of the business. I knew it was going to be for several weeks when I had the surgery, and then there was going to be the months of chemotherapy afterwards. And anybody who's ever been diagnosed with cancer before, you know there are no guarantees. And so I knew it could have taken me out for an extent for longer, if not forever. And it gave me time to reflect and say, am I really building up the team the way that I should? Am I taking that pre-employment process as seriously as possible and holding out for the best of the best? So that's one. And then when people come on board, am I truly teaching them, empowering them, guiding them, or am I just pushing them out of the way and going, you do what you do and I'll fill in and do the rest and the higher level stuff? I'd say before I was diagnosed with cancer, I was doing a lot of those things that do not lead to long-term sustainability. And I know from working with a lot of business owners now, they oftentimes say, this new sales rep, he doesn't sell as well as me. This new operations person, they don't think as well as me. They don't write as well as me. They don't organize as well as me. And my answer to them is, yeah, of course, they don't, and they never will, and they won't live up to your exact standard. They won't do it the exact same way. But you have got to, if you want to grow in any size whatsoever, if you want to be able to take weekends and evenings or things like that, you've got to focus on getting the right people and then building up people once you bring them on board. And so we just went through that here at the RSPA. Like, this is fast forwarding into today. The interview process that I've learned myself and that I've also worked with other people on, I actually put into a book that's called Hire, Hire, Hire Like You Just Beat Cancer. And if anybody wants to find me on LinkedIn, mention that you heard it on this podcast, connect with me, I will send you a free ebook of Hire Like You Just Beat Cancer. It has a lot of the philosophies and best practices. It also has in the back a list of 258 tremendous interview questions. I don't recommend you ask them all, but it really helps you dig in and understand that person better. So we just put somebody through that process. We have a great candidate coming on board, but then also we had somebody who left. They got another opportunity after 10 years with our organization. We were ready to backfill for that person by having others within the organization step up. That was not by accident. That was intentional by us to make sure we're developing those people and always have a backup or a second plan for those folks. And so, and we just actually, it's funny because your timing is perfect for this podcast. We just announced those promotions to our community yesterday. The feedback has been so overwhelmingly positive that people are saying, yes, this is a great team. You guys are destined for an even brighter future ahead. So I know that's not like as tangible a skill as, like coding or something of that nature, but to me, organizations are all about that, finding the right people, right, digging in to find their character, not just what's on their resume, and then making sure your focus is to build them up so they can perform, they could have a better, higher satisfaction just out of life in general, and also perform more in the job. So I know that was a lot, but Roderick, hopefully that was what you were looking for.
Oh, no, it makes a lot of sense. It's not only important to find the right fit, but once you find that person, you have to invest into them. You have to pour into their cup. You have to give them light, or if not, like you said, you won't have those types of situations where the next person is ready when that person leaves. So it's vitally important that you shared that with the business owners, because a lot of them are just focused on being in the business. They're not necessarily working on the business, and or not even thinking, I need to make sure to work on this person so they can be an even bigger part of the organization. So no, I definitely appreciate you sharing that.
I just want to say, I love that you use the word invest, because that's what I share all the time. When you bring a new employee on board, it's like, I want him to make sales calls. I want him to do work. I want him to do work. But the guideline that I learned is take what you wanted them to do, cut it down by half, give them the long version of the story so you were investing in their future. They might not be as productive those first 30, 60, 90 days, but you were looking at the long-term approach of this. If you explain to them the why behind what you're doing, they're going to be like, I get it. And when you go to do other things 6 months or a year from now, you're going to have a deep foundation that you have built in those individuals that they know why you do things, and they'll be able to build a stronger organization for you. So amen what you said, invest time in your people all throughout, but especially early on. You got to, my old coach used to say, if it starts right, it finishes right. So make sure you start people right.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely appreciate that. Now, before I move into the next section, I do want to ask about the book that I see behind you, that walk-on method. Is that something
Sure.
that you wrote or something you recommend? Tell me a little bit about that book.
That is Hire Like You Just Beat Cancer was my first book. The Walk-On Method to Career and Business Success is my second book. I published it in 2020. I don't recommend, if you want to do book tours, to do it during the middle of the pandemic, but that's when I had the book scheduled to come out. So what happened was I shared with you a little bit how my walk-on experience, as a basketball walk-on, shaped my professional career. It actually also shaped how I approached beating cancer. And so I thought, well, I would love to be able to tell that story, but I thought nobody wants to hear about Jim Roddy from Gannon University, right? People are going to say, I don't even know who that is. I also wanted to test my theory. And so I started reaching out. I did some research to find some former walk-ons who are now in the professional, not professional athletics, but professional workspace. And I thought, does my theory of the walk-on method hold up? I reached out to 5. They all had unbelievably good stories. So I found 5 more, reached out to them. I had 10 unbelievable stories. The book is 30 stories plus mine of they share that walk-on experience and how that shaped their mindset to take a big shot, right? To embrace obstacles, to never quit, to maximize their unique strengths. Like you asked, what was my specialty on the basketball team? What's people's specialty at work, right? You can't do everything well. What are your specialties at work? And so that's what the book is all about. It's really 31 inspiring stories of underdogs who became great because they were ordinary people, but they channeled their energy properly and they produced extraordinary results. So that one folks can find on Amazon. It's available on Amazon, but I have it as low a price as possible. It's like $2.99 or $3.99 for an ebook, $9.99 for the paperback.
Okay, awesome. Just wanted to ask because I figured it had a correlation with what it is that you did when you shared earlier about you being a walk-on. So I just wanted to highlight it because, again, want to just focus on some of those things that you have done. And being an author is a great accomplishment. And I didn't know it was going to be a plug for you, but I'm glad that I mentioned it because I want to highlight some of those great things that you've done. Now, you've done a great job of sharing about your journey. Talking about your career, just a magnificent and wise words on, some of those skills you shared. Now I want people to understand that Jim is still a human and he's just, not just the president and CEO. So let's just say that you have the organization rocking and rolling. You have prepared the people that are under you to take on some more of those responsibilities. And Jim has more time for himself, and let's just say money's not an option. What is it that Jim would do with his time if he had more on his plate?
Well, first, just, I keep writing down magnificent and wise, how you describe me. So great. I will make sure to mention that to my wife tonight, that somebody call me that. So the thing that I really enjoy doing is coaching, and it's coaching sports, coaching kids in sports. That has been super, super gratifying. I've had 2 different stretches of doing that. When I was 16 years old, my parents adopted a 1-year-old baby boy, and then my father ended up passing away when my little brother was only 6 years old. And so I was able to coach him all the way from little kid soccer through AAU basketball. And so I got 1 lap doing that. And then I got married. My daughter was born. I got to coach her through little kids soccer and basketball. And then I also she ended up getting into dancing, but we moved down. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina now. And we moved between her sophomore, junior year of high school. And she wanted to try out for the field hockey team. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try to coach you in field hockey, right? Because what do we know? And so we went out
Hmm.
there and just tried to figure out and build the skills there. Really, really gratifying. She made the JV team, and then she was named most improved player. Then she made the varsity team, and she got a lot of playing time on a varsity level. I love being able to coach because I love sports in general. I love what sports can do for individuals. This is why I am totally anti fantasy sports, because it takes, and sports betting, really,
Hmm.
because it takes the people and reduces it down to numbers, where it should be the absolute opposite of that. And so the joy that I've experienced, like we talked about empowering people, I still get back, and it's weird. I tell this story. This is Derek Radicek. This is like this first team I think that I coached. So we're going back to, oh my gosh, like the mid to early 1990s. That shows how old I am. And so Derek, our fifth graders on our fifth and sixth grade basketball team, our sixth graders were awesome athletes. Like, a lot of them went on and played college sports, and one just got inducted into his high school Hall of Fame. Like, they were really good. But the fifth graders, we had to keep some of them on the team, so we had a JV team next year. They were not super athletic, so we were really starting fundamental. Derek Radicek, to get him to do a left-handed layup and jump off his right foot and coordinated, it was really, really difficult for him. But I will never forget, in one of ours, probably right around February, we're having a we'd always do warm-ups and layups. Derek did a layup perfectly. I remember the assistant coach and I are like, did we just see that? Did he actually do it? And then we're like waiting, waiting, waiting. He did it again. And we're like I said, I get goosebumps when I tell that story. To see kids get better like that, and it builds genuine confidence in them and leads to a life of, hey, if I put the effort in and I build the skill, good things are going to happen for me. Maybe not always, but it gives me a chance to do that. And so my role, I see as a coach, is teaching them the skills, but also having a positive experience, because a lot of coaches, they just care about winning, winning, winning. They scream and yell and they lose control. I feel like I played, I'm using that term loosely, but I was part of a team that went to Division Two Elite Eight, won our conference, played in front of thousands of people, stuff like that. I don't need to live voyeuristically and get more victories, through a bunch of young kids. I want them to work hard. I want them to have a really fun experience. I want them to skin their knees on occasion, right? But then have somebody pick them up, pick themselves up. So you can see I'm really passionate about it, but it's that element of it. It's not so much the trophies or the championships. Though if I pan my camera a little bit, I do have some of the trophies that we won from our boys club tournaments that we
Hmm.
played in, and teams that we put together. But that's something that's really, really special to me, Roderick, is, again, coaching. It's being in the mix of that, in the competition of it, and really helping lift kids and teach kids and help them better. So I love doing that. I'd love to take a crack at that at the college level if I could someday. Again, I've gone all the way up through high school, AAU, things of that nature, but any level of coaching, it's been super, super gratifying.
Yeah, that's amazing. Even with time and money not being an issue, you are still ready to feed into people. That's excellent. That shows a magnificent character inside of you, Jim. And I definitely appreciate you sharing that with us today. Now, you've talked about the business and how you're helping those SMBs. You shared some of the skills that some of the business owners can utilize in their mix. What is the best way for someone to get in contact with you if they have more questions about any of those topics?
Sure. So I mentioned LinkedIn. If you look for Jim, Roddy, I'm one of the handful. If you do Jim Roddy, RSPA, you'll find me there. My email address is my first initial J, the last name Roddy, Roddy, at gorspa.org. We are a nonprofit, so it is .org. But those are the two avenues that I definitely recommend for folks. And I also recommend, when you do a LinkedIn introduction to somebody, spend the extra money so you make sure you can always put a note in there, because people send me LinkedIn connections. I'm like, do I know this person? Like, what's the context from it?
Mhm.
Always give some context to do that. And again, if you mention that you heard it on this podcast, I'll send you a free copy of my ebook, How You're Like You Just Beat Cancer. But again, find me on LinkedIn, jroddy at gorspa.org.
Excellent, excellent. And we always appreciate our guests coming on and sharing, because it's been very easy for you to talk, but sometimes it's challenging for some of our newer podcast members to come on and share their story. And what we truly do appreciate that, and we always honor them by giving them the last word. So, Jim, can you look in the camera and tell the people something good?
Sure. And this comes from the gist of the walk on method to career and business success. Ordinary people will accomplish extraordinary feats when their energy is properly channeled, right? It is almost a guarantee that no matter where you come from, who you are, what your background is, what you've been through, if you channel your energy properly, you're going to do extraordinary things.
Excellent. Wise words from a wise man. Thank you so much for sharing today, Jim. And we truly do appreciate you being a guest with us today.
My pleasure, Roderick. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.